the Canadian government is going to have to respond to a demand that they work with international partners, including the United Nations, to deploy peacekeeping forces to Gaza. Let me explain why. It all started thanks to Chelsea Barnowich, a Canadian from Alberta. She initiated a parliamentary e-petition, but these aren't just any old petition. Parliamentary e-petitions come with requirements for the government. Here's what I mean. The first big hurdle after being written, submitted, and supported by 5 other Canadians is that an e-petition actually has to get authorized by a member of parliament. In this case, NDP MP Heather McPherson authorized the e-petition. Now, MPs will often authorize e-petitions regardless of whether they agree with its content, so that their constituents' voices are heard. I reached out to Heather to ask if she explicitly supports the content of this petition, but she didn't get back to me in time for this video, which is fair because I only gave her like 3 hours, so I will update you guys if I get a response. And that said, she has been incredibly outspoken about the genocide in Gaza, so it's not a huge surprise that she would authorize this particular petition. And this petition, that has been open for signatures only since June 26th, already has more than 10,000 signatures, and it is going to be open until July 26th. If you want to sign it, just Google e-petition and the number that you see above. But that number of signatures is what makes this so interesting and exciting, because a petition only has to receive 500 signatures from the public for it to be certified by the clerk of petitions, presented to the House of Commons, and for the government to table a response. So because this petition has more than 500 signatures, way more in fact, the government is going to have to respond to it. So here is exactly what that petition that they're going to have to respond to says. Quote, "Whereas the humanitarian crisis in Gaza has resulted in the loss of tens of thousands of civilian lives, including children, and has led to the destruction of essential infrastructure, access to food, medical care, and shelter, Canada has a long-standing commitment to peacekeeping, international law, and the protection of civilians in conflict zones. The ongoing conflict continues to pose grave threats to regional stability, human rights, and international peace, and impartial international peacekeeping forces have historically played a vital role in protecting civilians and facilitating humanitarian aid in areas of armed conflict. We, the undersigned people of Canada, call upon the Government of Canada to work with international partners, including the United Nations, to urgently deploy peacekeeping forces to Gaza for the protection of civilians, to support the delivery of humanitarian aid, and to uphold Canada's commitment to international humanitarian law and the responsibility to protect vulnerable populations." That is what they have to respond to. Now, the government has had a pretty disappointing response on this issue to date, to say the least. On May 19th, Canada came out with a joint statement calling on the government of Israel to allow a, quote, "full resumption of aid into Gaza immediately and enable the UN and humanitarian organizations to work independently and impartially." Because as we know right now, the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is the one that Israel is using to deploy aid. It is a US-backed organization. And I'll get more into detail on this in a second, but we do know that Israel is deploying this aid, and we've heard this from humanitarian aid workers who are experts in this field, who do this on the ground, that the aid has been distributed in line with military and political objectives, and that is illegal. But yeah, so this statement that called for the actual aid groups who know what they're doing to be able to handle the humanitarian aid distribution came out on May 19th, but it included no concrete action. On June 6th, nearly a month later, our Foreign Affairs Minister updated us that she is, quote, "looking at a variety of options when it comes to increasing humanitarian aid access in the region." There was no concrete action. On June 11th, our Foreign Affairs Minister's office responded to my request for comment, telling me that, quote, "the urgent need for humanitarian aid being allowed to enter Gaza is one the minister raises each time she speaks to the conflict in the Middle East, as well as the need for Hamas to release all the hostages immediately, including the remains of those who have been killed, and also an immediate ceasefire to prevent further civilian deaths." There was no concrete action. Now, on July 7th, after several reports have confirmed the aid distribution sites are a, quote, "killing field," not unlike the red light, green light game in Squid Game, and after the AP has obtained leaked footage showing US contractors celebrating as they fire on starving civilians trying to access aid in Gaza.
I think you hit one. talk south, so.
There is still no concrete action from the Canadian government. Meanwhile, I just spoke with my friend Dr. Yipeng Ji today. He is a physician who has been on the ground in Gaza, and he shared this testimony with me that he got from another doctor who is currently in Gaza. He gave me permission to share it with you. As that doctor entered Gaza, Israeli soldiers confiscated baby formula that he was trying to bring in with him. Baby formula. Food for babies amid man-made mass starvation during which Gazans are forced to run a deadly gauntlet to try to feed themselves and their families. On top of that, the Israelis confiscated everything medical, this doctor said. Wound dressings, medications. But I'll be honest, it is the baby formula being confiscated that haunts me. It is morally injuring to confront the fact that a human being is capable of taking away food for babies from a doctor entering a zone of mass starvation. That is a stain on all of us. So we'll see what the government says this time that they have to respond and speak about this humanitarian aid situation. I'm hoping that rather than just words in response to this e-petition, we'll finally see some concrete action. And I also hope that the media actually covers this petition, because despite it being a famously slow time of year for political news, and I know because I was in the parliamentary press gallery for like 7 years, according to Chelsea, who initiated the petition, they haven't found time to cover this. What do you think of all this?